There are people who take risks without thinking about the consequences and end up turning a simple bit of fun into a tragedy. They are thoughtless decisions, clueless actions, and moments that prove how recklessness can be costly and bring unimaginable consequences. And that is exactly what you are going to see here today. So already drop your like, click below on the subscribe button, and let's go. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most fascinating places on the planet, famous for its wildlife, imposing landscapes, and unique geothermal phenomena, such as geysers and hot springs. But behind so much beauty, a real danger is also hidden. Many of these waters reach extremely high temperatures, getting hotter than lava itself, and they have an acidic composition capable of causing serious accidents. Despite the countless warning signs and the boardwalks built to ensure visitors' safety, some people, driven by curiosity, end up risking themselves by stepping out of the permitted areas. In the year 2016, a young man named Colin Scott played the leading role in one of the most tragic episodes in the park's recent history. When trying to approach a prohibited hot spring to swim, he ended up slipping and falling into a pool of boiling water. His sister, who accompanied him, was recording everything on video and witnessed the fatality. Rescue teams were called, but the extreme heat added to an approaching electrical storm made any attempt difficult. Unfortunately, Colin's body could never be recovered, dissolved by the action of the acidic water. This case serves as a powerful warning. Yellowstone is wonderful, but it demands absolute respect for safety rules. Admiring its landscapes is a privilege, but getting too close can turn an unforgettable outing into an irreversible tragedy. Jacob's Well, located in Texas, is one of the best known and at the same time most dangerous natural spots for divers. At first glance, its crystal clear waters seem inviting and tranquil, but they hide a complex system of underwater caves that has already cost the lives of several explorers. Among the most striking cases is that of November of 1983, when two young divers, Richard Patton and Clark McConnell, students in an advanced course, decided to venture beyond what was considered safe. The instructor in charge, Don Dibble, had already survived a serious accident at the same location and knew well the risks of the so-called fourth chamber, a narrow and treacherous passage where many accidents occurred. Concerned, he even tried to block access to that part of the cave, but the obstacle was removed by other divers, driven by curiosity. Even in the face of warnings, Richard and Clark went ahead without the specific training for cave diving and without the proper equipment. During the exploration, the situation quickly became critical. In narrow passages, without safety lines, and amid sediments that reduced visibility, the two faced extreme difficulties. Clark managed to return to the surface, but Richard did not survive and ended up losing his life. The episode reinforces an essential lesson. Environments of impressive beauty can hide lethal challenges, and respecting safety protocols is fundamental to prevent tragedies from repeating themselves. The accident that occurred in Uberaba in the São Sebastião neighborhood, Brazil, drew attention for the severity and the circumstances that involved the deaths of the sisters Ana Maria Cunha Prata, aged 79, and Silvia Maria Prata Magalhães, aged 85. The two were visiting a friend's house when they called the residential elevator to go down to the ground floor. According to the civil police, a technical problem caused the equipment door to open before the platform arrived at the floor, creating an invisible risk situation for those who were waiting. Not realizing that the elevator had not yet arrived, the sisters walked in and fell into the shaft, being struck shortly afterward by the moving cabin. Forensics indicated that the elevator had overdue maintenance, which may have contributed to the failure that resulted in the tragedies. The fire department and the mobile emergency care service were called immediately. The victims were found unconscious in the shaft, but despite rescue efforts, they did not survive their injuries. Therefore, the importance of regular maintenance of residential elevators, which even in private environments require rigorous technical care to ensure safety. Now, the investigation continues to determine and punish those responsible. Chewing gum consumption, generally seen as harmless, has already been at the center of unexpected tragedies and fatal accidents. In January of 2024 in England, a driver went through a major scare when she choked on a piece of gum while driving. Frightened by another car that cut her off abruptly, the woman lost control of her chewing and the gum blocked her airways. Luckily, a police officer who was passing by the highway noticed the situation and managed to save her by applying the Heimlich maneuver. If it were not for the quick intervention, the victim could have died of suffocation suffocation or even caused a serious accident. Not always, however, is the outcome happy. In the year 2012, a woman suffered a fall on the stairs and, on impact, accidentally inhaled the gum she was chewing. The total blockage of breathing led to her death, showing how a simple gesture can turn into tragedy in a matter of seconds. The most shocking case, however, occurred in the year 2009 in Ukraine. A chemistry student had the strange habit of dipping chewing gum in citric acid before chewing it. In one of his experiments, he ended up mixing the gum by mistake with hexogen, an explosive much more powerful than TNT. The result was devastating, an explosion that took his life instantly. These episodes reveal that even the simple act of chewing gum can carry unexpected risks. The case of Kike Nelson de Souza, a young man just over 20 years old from El Dorado in Sao Paulo, Brazil, shocked the community due to the mysterious and tragic way in which he was found dead. On the morning after a party, his mother, Christiane, received from his ex-girlfriend a photo in which Kike appeared with his head resting on the window bars of the young woman's house. At first, Christiane believed that her son was sleeping, but upon arriving at the location, she found that he had died by strangulation with the metal structure itself. Hours earlier, Kike had gotten into a commotion at a party when trying to take his 17-year-old ex-girlfriend away, with whom he had a baby of just 3 months. The action resulted in a fight with 2 guys and also with security guards, leaving a tense atmosphere. After the confrontation, he would have returned home, but soon after he was found dead under suspicious circumstances. The evidence raises doubts about what really happened. Security cameras recorded the passing of a motorcycle at dawn, a vehicle associated with one of the guys with whom Kike fought. Shortly afterward, residents heard metallic noises coming from the house. The ex-girlfriend, in turn, was at another party at the time the body was discovered, which increases the strangeness about her involvement and knowledge of the case. For the mother, Kike would never take his own life since he was happy, made plans, and was dedicated to the newborn son. Therefore, she firmly believes it was homicide and demands justice. The police are investigating footage, social media posts, and forensic reports to clarify whether the death was the result of an accident, suicide, or crime. A serious incident that occurred at a hospital in Florida drew attention to the invisible risks surrounding the use of magnetic resonance. A 61-year-old man entered the room while the equipment was operating and was wearing a thick metal chain around his neck. In a matter of seconds, the object was violently attracted by the magnetic field, causing critical injuries that put his life at risk due to asphyxia and strangulation. The episode surprised patients and specialists, especially due to the severity of the injuries caused by something apparently simple, such as a chain. A patient who was at the location described the scene as insane, reinforcing the shock in the face of the magnet's force. Doctors and radiology professionals highlighted that this type of machine has extremely powerful magnetic fields, capable of turning any metal object into an immediate risk. The case raised doubts about safety failures. In many hospitals, there are strict protocols in which radiology technologists act as gatekeepers, controlling access to MRI rooms. However, in the hospital where the accident occurred, the man's entry indicates that such measures are not always sufficient. The absence of comments by the clinic contrasts with the need for transparency in situations like this. For specialists, only with reinforced protocols, constant patient education, and additional layers of safety will it be possible to avoid similar accidents in the future. An unusual and tragic case happened in North Carolina involving the attempted theft of a catalytic converter, part of automobiles' exhaust systems. A man suspected of committing the crime ended up dying after the vehicle itself fell on him. According to the authorities, the suspect used power tools to cut and remove the part from a Toyota Prius when the car shifted and crushed him. It is not known for sure how long he remained trapped under the automobile until he was found lifeless. This type of crime has been growing in the United States since catalytic converters contain precious metals such as palladium, platinum, and rhodium, which have high value on the black market. The Prius specifically is one of the most targeted models due to the yield and value of its parts. However, to remove the converter, the criminal needs to position himself under the car, which represents an enormous risk, as became evident in this case. A tragic accident in Bom Jesus de Goiás, Brazil, drew attention to the risks faced by workers in grain silos. A young man of only 24 years, identified as thoughtless, died buried while carrying out activities in a corn silo. The rescue was extremely delicate, since any movement inside the structure made the grain shift even more, making the body's removal work difficult. Employees at the unit tried to help him using equipment available at the location, but unfortunately, when the fire department arrived, Thales no longer showed signs of life. The young man's body was sent to the Criminalistics Institute of Itumbiara, responsible for the legal procedures. This episode adds to another recent case recorded in Morinos, also in Goiás, Brazil, where a 19-year-old boy died in similar circumstances inside a grain silo. These occurrences highlight the great dangers of this type of work environment, where the risk of burial is constant and the response time of rescue teams is decisive. The tragedy reinforces the need for prevention measures, with mandatory use of appropriate safety equipment and constant team training in order to prevent situations like these from happening again. The case that involved Karen Wynne Murphy, aged 41, shocked the community of Bristow in the United States in the year 2011. On June 17th, in the middle of summer, Karen went out to work and left her son, Ryan Murphy, still in the car seat inside the minivan. The child remained in the vehicle throughout the mother's entire shift under high temperatures. Only upon returning home, after the end of the shift, did she realize that the boy was dead. The investigations also revealed a previous episode in January of the same year when Karen had forgotten her son in the car for less than 1 hour when she failed to take him to preschool. These two episodes supported the negligence charges against the mother. Initially, Karen was charged with manslaughter, but later she accepted a plea deal. The proceeding concluded that she would plead guilty to 2 counts of child negligence, both treated as misdemeanors. Thus, she would not serve prison time, but would remain on probation for 6 years, would be required to perform 400 hours of community service at an animal shelter, and could undergo psychiatric evaluation. The collapse of the old railway bridge over the Cage River in Brazil shocked residents and visitors due to the unexpected tragedy and the circumstances in which it happened. 3 young women, aged 15, 22, and 26, went through a scare after the structure suddenly gave way, making them fall from a height of more than 9 meters. The episode occurred seconds after they posed for a photo together, recording a moment that should have been one of joy, but ended in disaster. According to the local police, the site had shown signs of deterioration for years. The problem is that responsibility for maintaining the old viaduct was lost in disputes between municipal and federal authorities. The Ministry of Transport at the time was still assessing the situation, but nothing had been done to ensure safety. The result was the partial collapse of the southern part of the bridge, precisely at the moment when the young women were using it. In total, 8 people were on the bridge at the moment of the accident, but only the 3 girls ended up in the hospital. They were rescued by emergency teams and transferred to a hospital located almost 190 kilometers away. The episode became a warning about the neglect of old infrastructure and the risks of improvised tourist spots that, despite their beauty, hide deadly dangers. Catherine the Great was one of the most striking figures in the history of Russia, remembered for her long rule and the reforms that modernized the empire. However, alongside her achievements, rumors also arose that crossed the centuries and gained strength in the popular imagination. One of the most curious, although uncomfortable, involves the way her death supposedly occurred. There are those who say that Catherine died in a very unusual situation related to a horse. The rumor claimed that she had an uncommon fascination for these animals, and that at a certain moment, she would have lost her life amid an unusual and somewhat intimate episode involving one of them, if you know what I mean. This kind of story spread quickly among her opponents, who saw in the rumors a way to diminish her image before the people and posterity. The detail is that Catherine indeed had an appreciation for horses, which may have given a certain credibility to the invented stories. However, official records indicate that she died of natural causes after a stroke in her chambers. Even so, the rumor crossed generations and remains to this day being mentioned in an almost folkloric way. Nevertheless, everything suggests that this version of the story is nothing more than a myth created to tarnish her reputation. On August 5th, 2025, the police in Lodi, California received a rather unusual call. At about 6:10 in the evening, a woman was found trapped in a clothing donation box. According to authorities, she was unconscious, with her head stuck in the container's deposit mechanism. The fire department was called and managed to remove the victim from inside the structure. She was quickly taken to a regional hospital, but ended up not surviving. Her identity has not yet been revealed, but investigators believe she was between 35 and 45 years old. So far, no one knows how the woman ended up getting trapped there, and the police are asking the public's help to understand what happened. This was not the first case of its kind. In June, in Plantation, Florida, a person was found dead inside another donation container, partially trapped in the entry mechanism. Months earlier, in March, in New York City, a 43-year-old woman was located after a fire in a similar box. At the time, authorities raised the hypothesis that she was using the location as shelter against the cold and rain. Donation containers, common in several cities in the United States, have helped many people, but episodes like these show that behind a charitable initiative, there can also be unexpected risks. In June of 2017, the young Reed Kamita, aged 15, participated in a Boy Scouts activity in Texas that ended in tragedy. He was seeking his last badge to become an Eagle Scout, the highest title within the organization. The initial plan was an introductory backpacking course where he would learn basic trail techniques, but according to the family, he was placed in a more advanced group, which left earlier than planned, facing heat of almost 37 degrees. Along the way, Reed felt unwell and suffered a collapse due to heat stroke. The spot was so remote that, according to the police, there was practically no way for paramedics to arrive in time. The boy was even taken by helicopter but did not survive. After the shock, the parents filed a lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America. They accused the institution of failing to follow its own safety rules. Since Reed was sent on the trail with only a 14-year-old youth and another age at 18, instead of 2 responsible adults, as the regulations required. The family also argues that the camp director should have changed the plan in the face of the heat wave. The organization in turn stated that it could not comment on the case due to ongoing litigation, but emphasized that the safety of young people is a priority. The boy's parents are seeking compensation of $1 million and continue demanding answers. As a tribute, Reed's own group posthumously awarded him the camping badge that he lacked to complete his Boy Scouts journey. Do not forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.